What's up, everyone, and welcome to another Academy for Adventures podcast. I'm your host here. My name is Guildmaster Zarm Dragonheart, and boy, do we have an awesome guest for you here today. I am so excited as to what we're going to be talking about. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce our phenomenal guest today. So, today, our guest is, above all else, a storyteller and a family-friendly content creator. He's very much into filmmaking and photography. And as I said before, he's a family man. He's married and he has two sons. He is an avid video game collector, and he has his own YouTube channel called The Gamer's Attic. And above all else, he is a longtime friend. Please welcome Javier Urbieta. I'm so happy to have you here, Javier. How are you?
I'm doing great. Morrow. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited here to be in the Academy for Adventures. And man, I'm just, I don't know, I'm ecstatic. I feel like I'm playing a video game just being here.
Yeah, that's the type of feel that we like to basically embody. And we have such a natural mesh. I mean, look at your background. I mean, that's just like, we couldn't have a better guest. I mean, we really couldn't. That's why I'm so happy that you're here. And what I would like to know is, I guess the first thing is, tell us a little bit more about your YouTube channel. Like, when did you start it?
That's a good question. So the channel started back in 2017. And the idea came about a few years before that. Back in late 2015, I was working with a friend of mine on a wrestling show, a pro wrestling show. He was a commentator, and I was the cameraman. And I would shoot ideas to him about, doing certain things on the show and on the commentating, I'm sorry. So we came with him and another friend of his, and we decided to create a wrestling show called The Few Show. And The Few Show is a show that it stands for the Few stands for Fanatics Enjoying Wrestling. So it was a group that would go out to local wrestling shows in Miami-Dade County and Broward County. And we would sit there and, go as friends, a group of us, and we would watch the wrestlers perform and do all kinds of things. And then by going to those shows, we got to meet wrestlers and got access to backstage of what goes on behind the scenes. And that's when we created the show, because one of us, the other guy, Lewis, he had access to a studio called Connecticut School of Broadcasting. So we started filming in there, and every month we did that for 2 years. And we would have a guest come on every month, a wrestler, and we would do some over the top stuff, like stuff that you would see in the WWE. So it was just fun creating those storylines, and I really enjoyed it. So after the show kind of fizzled out, I decided to create the Gamer's Attic show. And basically, the Gamer's Attic show is supposed to be a family-friendly video game show. Basically, not only dealing with video games, but also dealing with toys.
Yeah.
Vintage toys from the 80s and 90s. It was like all a combination of all that. And I wanted to bring those stories to life. So we would do like long shows, and we would do like short videos on toys and stuff like that. And over the years, it's evolved. And I've just been experimenting a lot with different avenues of where I want to go with it. And yeah, that's how I started.
That's
2017.
I remember seeing when you were doing the wrestling content. I remember it. And I had no idea that those two things were linked. That's so interesting to me. Because I remember I remember seeing these videos and these pictures of the wrestling, and I never thought that that was actually part of the reason why you started the Gamers Addict show. Interesting. Because I know
Yeah,
you love wrestling. I remember that very, very well.
yeah. I mean, I grew up watching wrestling, and to me, the biggest joy was watching the wrestling in the late '80s and '90s. Back then, the characters were over the top. They were like almost like comic book heroes
Yeah.
and villains. They each had their own personalities,
Yeah.
and you had your heels like Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels, who were real cocky, over the top guys. And then you had the good guys like Hulk Hogan and the
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior. And,
Yeah.
those guys were big and they were like so unbelievably, unbelievable, like they looked like cartoons, you know.
Who was the guy who drank beer before the fight?
That was Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Stone Cold Steve.
And,
There we
and,
go.
and he was
He's
like
like,
another.
ah!
Yeah, he was another guy in the Attitude Era. That was later on in the night in the late 90s when
Okay, that was
wrestling
later.
was like,
Okay.
like they kind of left the characters from the 80s and 90s behind because the audience was changing
Yeah.
and the industry was evolving, and they needed to get more. They wanted to bring more of like the up for in your face Jerry Springer kind of like content, and that's what they did with the Attitude Era. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was one of the pioneers of that. He was just like an unforgettable character, and it goes back to what I'm saying. He was a character, right? You know that we can all remember that was really memorable. So yeah.
Why the game? Why the name Gamers Addict Show?
So the reason I created Gamers Attic, I have always wanted two things. I wanted gamers in the title and I wanted show. So I didn't know where, attic came because I lived in an apartment and it was like on the second floor. I didn't have an attic, but I had I had an apartment and I was using my living room as the stage area. And I had so much stuff. It was like unbelievable. Actually, I would say the Gamer's Attic is what started the trend of me moving to different places and finally moving out of state because
Wow.
I had so many things. It was overwhelming, like camera equipment and video games and toys and green screen and a bunch of props and tables and stuff like that. And the reason I wanted to add show was because the Gamer's Attic is inspired by my favorite show when I was a kid, which was the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. And in that show, you had Captain Lou Albano and Danny Wells. And Captain Lou played Mario and Danny Wells played Luigi. And it was a really, really fun show. They would have like all kinds of guests on there. And that was always my idea. I wanted to do a show with special guests. I had a budget, so you're not going to see like Michael Jackson or Cyndi Lauper on the Gamers Attic show, but you did see Cyndi Lauper on the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and you saw a bunch of other celebrities like Magic Johnson, Sergeant Slaughter, Roddy Piper. They had that girl from Baywatch. I forgot her name, but it was just like they always had a guest, and I always found it funny that they would do these skits and I was like, man, I want to do that. Like when it never left my mind, So that's how the Gamers Attic show was created. It was kind of like paying a homage to the 1989 Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
It's always amazing to me when I hear stories because I love to ask these questions because most of the time there is a story behind it. Like I've talked to some people, it's like, oh, why'd you pick that name? It's like, well, because it sounded cool or somebody told me it. But a lot of times, like names have meanings, and then it's funny because when you create your content, it's usually linked to something that inspired you. That's because that's what storytellers do. Like people like yourself, they pull from different things in their life, and they kind of create some sort of amalgamation, or they do like an homage, like what you're doing. But obviously, even though it's an homage, it's still different. Like you have your own ideas and your own vision, and you spin it. It's like you didn't like people think like this is something a lot I hear a lot from people is like, well, I have to make something unique and I have to make it so special and different. It's like, well, not always. Like you can make things a little bit different and still borrow from things that inspire you. It's still yours. You don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. You can just do something a little bit different, and it's still beautiful and it's still fun to see.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the stuff that we've done has been borrowed, and we also have a lot of new stuff. In
Exactly.
the end, it was, it's something totally new. No one's ever seen it. And most of the time when we do videos, I always try not to use anybody else's content unless it's something that, I can't, I have to have it in there. And as long as I don't get a copyright strike, then I'm fine with it. But I always, most of the TGA content is original stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I've always noticed that. So here on the Academy for Adventures, we basically built this on four pillars because what I believe as an individual is that in order for you to be strong, you have to have a firm foundation.
mhm.
And a firm foundation is then established by having pillars. And when you have those pillars, you have a structure. So the academy is built on these four values. I call them pillars. They're adventure, battle, growth, and beauty. Those are the four pillars upon which I built this academy. And so I always like to ask what these words mean to people because they always mean different things. So when I ask you about the word adventure, like, well, what does adventure mean to you, and like, how do you integrate it in your own life?
That's a good question. Adventure to me means something that is gonna make you feel like you're 7 years old and you're waiting for Santa to drop something off during the holiday season. Like adventure, like you just have that feeling that you're ready to to embark on a journey that is going to be unbelievable. Like you're just thinking of that moment, and it's something that's going to be so amazing. The experience is so fulfilling. The only way I can describe it is like, you know is mentioning Santa, because you're waiting. You're a 7-year-old child and you're waiting that Christmas Eve night for that for Santa to pop down your chimney and drop that. That's like an adventure to me. Like you're excited, and um it's you know when you're in the middle of, at least for me, like if you're in the middle of filming something, that's an adventure for me, because it's something that I really enjoy, and I know that it's something that is going to be shown to everybody, and at least from my point of view. So it's something that's real fulfilling. Adventure, that's a really good strong word there.
So there's a lot of anticipation in there for you.
Yeah,
So it's like it's coming, so you're super excited for you're waiting for it, but at the same time, you're not sure what's coming. You know something's coming, but you're not sure. But it's Santa, so chances are it's something good. So like
chances are.
you anticipate this good thing coming, and you're like really excited for it.
Really excited. Yeah. Yeah. It's good that could it be bad? Who knows? I
Well,
mean,
not all adventures are good.
yeah, not all adventures are
Not all
good.
adventures are good, and that's the reason why I ask, because it's always interesting to see the examples that people give. Like, you use the Santa example. Sometimes people will refer to like travel, or they'll refer to, a relationship, or they'll refer to something that a hobby they have. Well, you did both. You refer to the filmmaking and your YouTube channel. So obviously you see adventure in the hobby. But I find it beautiful to use the Santa example because Santa is another entity, and he's bringing something to you. And that's actually a common motif. Like we see that, for example, in The Hobbit, right? So like Gandalf is Santa. So it's like you've got Frodo in Lord of the Rings, and you've got Bilbo in The Hobbit, and it's like Gandalf is like this Santa Claus figure.
Yeah.
And he's bringing like the present of adventure, but it's not always good because like, well, I don't want to leave. I want to stay in my house. Like I don't want to go on this adventure. I don't want to go fight a dragon,
Yeah.
But it's still adventure, even if you don't want it at first. Like something good is going to come out of it, so you're excited for it anyway, even though you might be scared.
Yeah. So Gandalf is like the storyteller, like he's gonna lay it out for you, and you're gonna jump right into the adventure.
Yeah. So what about battle? So when you think about battling someone or battling something, or just the word itself, battle, what does that mean?
To me, battle would mean like any problems you may have while you're on the adventure. So like it could be, anything that could like stop the adventure, or anything that can cause anything, any issues. Like for me, like any technical issues, that's a battle.
Battle right there.
Yeah, so that's the battle. When you do anything that, at least with me, like with anything that has to do with filmmaking, not having enough personnel, missing a line on your skit, not hitting the record button, somebody didn't hit the record button. That actually happened to me on the last time, but we were able to save what we had. But yeah, anything that could impede your adventure,
Yeah.
That's the battle right there.
For me, it's interesting because adventures without battles are kind of boring. I like to use this example from Harry Potter. Like, imagine if we saw the Harry Potter movies, or we read the books, and the whole story is about Harry just going to school, and like he spends time with his friends, but he never has any problem. Like he never fights Voldemort, or he never has any encounters with the bully, with Draco Malfoy, and it's like he just has an easy life. It's like, well, that wouldn't be very entertaining. It wouldn't be very fun. We probably wouldn't watch it as much. There needs to be battle. Otherwise, like life is kind of unfulfilling.
I think it's funny you mentioned that, because hearing you say that, like battle is very important, because I don't want to make it sound like it's just the technical issues that one can have. But for example, when you're out filming something and you do a scene, you bring it down into your editor or whatever, and you don't like what you see. You did it, but you don't like how it came out. So you want to reshoot it again. So that's kind of like part of the battle. I don't think it's not bad. It just makes you better. It's fun, because with the battle, you could learn from your mistakes if you make any, So yeah, the way you mentioned that, I can't imagine watching a Harry Potter movie without Voldemort.
Yeah.
Or, without any of the battles that Harry had to deal with during the film. So yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I wouldn't just want to watch Harry Potter just having fun in Hogwarts school, and not having any of the confrontations that he had.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. But you know what's funny is that I see this a lot when I coach people is people love talking about other people's problems or like helping other people's problems. But the second you talk about their problems with them, or I talk about my problems with someone, with my coach or with you or other friends or my girlfriend, it's like this horrible like, oh my god, I have this problem. But it's like, well, if you didn't have any problems, and it's like your life will be pretty boring, number one. And number two, like you'd never grow. Like you'd just be the same. Like you don't you don't learn like when everything goes great in your life, beautiful. I mean, enjoy
Beautiful.
the season. Like hands down, like enjoy it. But you would never grow. You'd always be the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'd never be better.
And that's why it's so important to have a good network of people you trust, friends, um, could be family. I mean, doesn't matter. That believe in you and you know they can see things that you may not be able to see, and that's important because you know sometimes you get caught up in things, and it's important to get that criticism because it can help you, and you know having different minds together on the same project is only going to make your project better. It's going to grow, you know. At least I think, at least for me, the last 4 years I've had so much help that I'm so blessed, you know, with a lot of the projects that I've done. I wouldn't have been able to do it by myself. I did it because I had people there for me that were able to help me and push me forward, you know, to the next project or whatever it was.
Absolutely. Community is super key. It's super,
Exactly.
super key. And adventure is always more fun when you have a party. You know, it's like
Yeah.
RPGs are usually more fun when you have other people with you. Like, you know, when you play Dungeons, it's like Dungeons and Dragons is more fun when you play with other people. You know, it's
Yeah. Like,
not that funny to play by yourself, you know?
no, it's not. I mean, it's funny because like the more people you have, the more fun it is.
Yeah.
And if you have a great DM, oh my God, that can, you know, that can go
Yeah,
anywhere.
that can go, I mean, that can go to a lot of places that we may or may not discuss on a family friendly show. But but it certainly goes many places for sure.
Hmm.
It's always so unique to see that dynamic. And if it's a community of good people who truly care about you and they want to see you better, and they have helpful critiques and they have helpful comments, we can't see our own blind spots. We can't. That's the reason why they're called blind spots.
Sometimes also the battle comes from the negative too. Like there's a lot you sometimes you don't have the support. You'll have people that, you know, think that your stuff is trash, or even your own family may come down on you. And I mean that's happened to me.
Yeah,
And the only way I was able to overcome that battle is to keep moving forward. And by knowing that I love doing this stuff, then their opinions don't matter to me because it's what fulfills my heart and what fulfills my life. And if that fulfills my life and it makes me happy, then the battle is already half won.
absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes what's interesting about, because I've had similar situations, and usually it's like most. I mean, I don't say most of the time because every situation is different.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like the family members, it's like if they love you, like even if they don't say it the right way, a lot of times it's coming from a place of like I want to help you, but sometimes it's like they just don't. They're not very good at articulating it. It's like they'll say things like you're wasting your time, or this is not that great, or it's like you've been doing this for a while. Why you should be doing something different with your life or whatever. And it's it sucks to hear that because it's usually not what we want to hear from people that we like and care about.
Yeah.
But it's usually because it's like, they care about you as a person and they want to see you succeed, or they want you to divert your energy and resources to maybe other things because they want to see you grow. They don't want to see you like struggle. But at the same time, it's like you have to struggle to grow. Otherwise, it's like, you can't grow if you don't struggle. And sometimes you have to go through that struggle. It's not always about what's going to give you short-term gratification.
Exactly.
Could I divert some of my time, energy, and resources to like making more money right away? Yeah, I could go have 3 jobs, but it's like, what is having extra work gonna do for me in the long term? Sometimes it won't do much, especially if it's not a good use of my skills. Like if I'm a creative person, ideally I should be doing creative things. I shouldn't work in a factory. You know what I mean? Because that's not where my skill sets are. But sometimes it's like, well, yeah, like they want to see you succeed, but at the same time, it's like, well, let me give my 100% to this, and I may stumble and I may fall, but as long as I'm growing and I'm actually applying the things that will help me, I'm just in the process.
And that's important that we're all human. And if you fall and people see that, that's okay. I mean, no one's perfect in content creating. And you're always going to have your critics, but you're also going to have your supporters. And as long as you're enjoying it and you can learn from your mistakes and apply, the corrections in the future, you're going to do better.
Yeah.
And if you're doing what you love, keep doing it. Because, I was talking to my one of my best friend's sons the other day. He is making movies now. He's in the movie industry.
Wow.
He is 14 years old. And I was talking to him about, a movie that he made recently, and he told me, this is coming from a 14-year-old kid. He told me, P1, player one, that's my YouTube name. He said, do what you love to do and don't look back.
Wow.
And I was like,
a 14-year-old kid.
14-year-old telling me
wise
this.
Kid.
He said, do what you love to do and don't look back. And I said, is that how you apply to yourself? And he said, yes. I'm still going to go to school and I'm still going to, I'm going to finish high school and I'm going to finish college. But my number one thing is to work in Hollywood. And I want to do this and I love to do it. And he said, player one, if this is what you want to do what you love to do and keep doing it and don't stop. And for me, coming from that coming from a 14-year-old kid was very, very authentic, you know what I mean? Like it was like very real, So I would tell you the same thing too. The Academy for Adventures, keep doing it. Because I know we talked about this a little bit before the video.
Yeah.
And you shared some really great things that you want to do with what you're doing. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you're going to be doing, because I love fantasy. I love imagination. I love video games. And I think what you're doing brings it all into one, like the board games, the video games, the adventure. I mean, I'm excited about this. This is like, wow.
Yeah. Thanks. I am too. Kids usually the younger the kids are, the more true what they say is.
Yeah.
So usually by like age 7 and later, kids start to understand things such as filters. Like they start to filter out things. But like a 4-year-old will tell you the truth. Like a 4-year-old will tell you what they think, and there's no compromise. Like, yeah, Dad, you're ugly. It's It's like, damn, like, okay, like don't say things like that, because they're kids.
Yeah.
So for a 14-year-old to have this kind of beautiful, pure, wise understanding of reality and life, it's nice to hear because it was authentic, but it was also beyond his years for the most part. Although I've been surprised sometimes that I hear kids say things. I'm like, where'd you get that
Yeah.
from, kid? Like, you're 3. But there is this inner wisdom that sometimes manifests itself. Sometimes kids grow beyond their years,
I'm gonna give him a shout out right here. Giovanni Christoph. Giovanni Christoph, thank you, buddy, for that advice. You're awesome. And he is part of the YouTube channel Brat TV, which
Brad is-
has over 5 million subs. I think it does.
Wow.
So go ahead and check him out because there's a new series coming out with him, and he's in 7 episodes.
I gotta get Giovanni on here, man. That's
Yeah, he's
awesome.
amazing actor.
Wow. So when you think about the word beauty, what comes to mind? Like what does beauty mean to you?
That's a good question. I was looking at the 4 pillars, and that's the one that's like, I don't know, that stands out to me.
Yeah.
I think beauty is just sitting back and just enjoying your surroundings around you,
Mm.
and finding, just the most magical thing in the littlest of things, like a child walking with his mother into a supermarket and grabbing a little kid cart and pushing it into the supermarket to help his mom
Yeah.
out in the store. Or it could be just 2 people just smiling and having a coffee break together, while on break from work. Or um you know just like things that you can see that like for a moment you stop and you just smell the roses, right? Like you see what's around you and enjoy, that you're alive and that you have so much blessings, right? Living here in the United States and having the freedoms that we have, because a lot of people in the world don't have what we have, and it's taken for granted a lot of times.
Gratitude is I mean, I don't have statistics to back this up, but it certainly seems that gratitude is at an all-time low, at least here in the States. Certainly
Right.
seems that way. It seems that way because it's like the more we have, the less grateful we are for it. And that's a shame because just the fact that we are able to have this conversation across, hundreds, if not at least 1,000 miles, maybe from the Carolinas, but it's like, and we have a bed and we have a home and we have food and no one's trying to kill us right now, and all these things that we just take for granted, like things that go well in our lives, but we're complaining because I don't know.
Because of our insignificant luck in life or whatever. But it's just, I mean, we're so blessed,
We really are.
considering what other people in other parts of the world are going through.
And not just that, but even like just stuff that happens in general, like people are we have hands, right? Like, thanks be to God. Like, there are people who don't even have hands, like they can't grab things, they can't do things, or they're blind, and it's like those are, I am thankful for the fact that I can actually speak and eat, and actually be able to enjoy simple stuff.
Of
Although
course.
sometimes too, I will get caught in my own mind, and I will forget to be grateful for the things that I have, and the people too,
There you go.
too.
People. Yeah.
It's not just stuff, it's people. And also for this, that we can think and we can solve problems and we can do things for other people with this and with this and with this too, we can build stuff
And
if
also that we have the freedoms to do it.
and we have the freedoms to do it. Yeah, the free speech is important. If we didn't have that, then we'd have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Like, we're able to produce content. Like, you produce content and you have the freedom to be able to produce content. And you
Exactly.
choose to voice yourself. And we can have entertainment, whereas this wouldn't be possible everywhere. You know,
That's what I like about YouTube, that anyone can create a channel. Anyone. And anyone can have a voice on there. There's no excuse, really. You just got to go out there and do it and just have fun with it.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. What so every RP so we're every RPG has a main character, right? Like there's always one main character, and we are all the main character in our own RPG and our own lives. And our life is basically the biggest adventure that there ever will be for us. Like, that's the biggest adventure that we have is our adventure, our life. We're player one. We're all player one in our adventure, usually. So if you were an RPG character, what would be your biggest strength and your biggest weakness? Like, what would that character look like in terms of their traits?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of characters right now. Um, I think I would be a little bit like, I would be quiety. I'm more of a laid back type of guy, so I'd be like Chrono from Chrono Trigger,
Yeah.
but I'd be overly protective of all of my friends and comrades. Um, I'm always protective of people. I've always put people first before me. It's just something I've always done. I always worry about what my friends think and what everybody thinks. I don't know why, but you know, um, I guess the weakness in the character. I'm trying to remember who's who in video games in RPGs is like that. I would say I am a bit lazy. That is my weakness because I know I can do more, but I just don't. Like, there's a certain limit. Even though I do what I do to complete tasks. There's never been an issue where I've never completed a project or anything like that. But could I do more? I think I can. And even with like work assignments or whatever, I could be a bit lazy. I need to really work on that weakness. I wish there was like 48 hours in a day, you know, because it just seems like there's never enough time to complete anything. It's just like you look at the time, like today I worked all day and then I had to go pick up the kids, get them haircuts. I wanted to pressure clean my house. I come back, it's like 7 o'clock at night. The kids were hungry. I had gotten food. It's already too cold for me to step outside and to do that. And it's dark.
It's dark. You can't even
So,
see.
so I can't even see. So it's just that there's not enough time in the day, you know, like that's my weakness right there. And also sometimes I would say another weakness of mine is that I won't speak my mind right away on things. You know, it it takes a lot for me to say something. I'm not as blunt, and I'm certainly a person that I even if even if the person is wrong, I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. You know, I guess that would be like a weakness. Sometimes you should just be straightforward with people. If something isn't right or something isn't working for them, you know, but sometimes, I guess I just don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
That goes back to the protective instinct you said earlier, because you're
Yeah.
protective of people and by extension of their emotions and their psyche. You're a very agreeable person. And so you don't stir the pot easily if you don't have to.
Yeah, especially if it's something that the person really, really enjoys or cares about, but maybe you find a flaw in it, or you should probably tell that person how you feel if you're really close friends. Or I think someone that's very close and friendship is good, or a family member that you care about so much. I mean, it shouldn't hurt them if you're just trying to help them.
I think that sometimes we our strength and weaknesses a lot of times are the same thing, if that makes any sense, because when you really think about it, every trait has a light side and a dark side. So kindness, for example. Well, kindness is nice because you're being good to somebody. You're positive, you're uplifting, you're a source of positive energy. But at the same time, if you're only always kind, then you don't you don't get down to the nitty gritty, which it's like, imagine if you're only nice to your kids. It's like,
Mhm.
well, your kids aren't going to understand what it means to resolve conflict or have responsibility or be able to derive value from constructive criticism because you're only kind.
Right.
But also too, like, let's take something that's viewed as negative. Let's say anger. Oh, he's an angry guy. And it's like, well, there's also righteous anger. And it's like, well, there's anger that, there's anger at injustice.
Yeah.
Like, well, oh, let the criminal go. He's a nice man. He only murdered 12 people. It's like, well, no. It's like justice. So it's like God, right? Is merciful, but he's also just. And those two things they're not incompatible with each other. They are compatible. So we can have anger, good anger. And we want to
Yeah.
teach our kids to be angry at bad things so that they avoid those things and that they strive for goodness, right? So a lot of times our traits, I found for me, my strength is action, act, do stuff. Like, well, how can that be a weakness? Well, it's you're very productive, but then what about when it's time to slow down and unwind? Because I can be very anxious. I can be a very anxious person.
Yeah.
The other day, I was awake at 4:45 in the morning, and I didn't have to be. I didn't have to be awake. My alarm wasn't until 6:15, but literally for 90 minutes, from 4:45 to 6:15, I was just thinking about all the stuff that I have to do, and I have to help my girlfriend with this, and I have this client, and I'm going out of town next week, and I have to work out today, and I want to do this, and I have this debt, and I haven't paid this off, and all these thoughts of, like, because I'm very action oriented and I get a lot of things, I get a lot of stuff done, but then it's like your mind doesn't know how to stop. You don't know how to be at peace. So it's like
It's
that's
funny.
yeah.
It's funny because if whenever you wake up that at that time early, it's like that time goes by so fast if you don't go back.
Yeah, it's 6:15 like that. It's like,
Yeah.
like literally, like what happened? It felt like half an hour,
Yeah. Yeah, but I could see how that could not allow you to go back to sleep. All those thoughts in your head, all that stress at one time. I know how that is. That's something that that's adulthood, man.
That's
That's
adulthood.
life. Yeah,
And
that's life.
and I guess for for our listeners, it's it's not fun when you're going through it sometimes, but like I got to apply some things, some techniques that I've learned from coaches and psychologists. They tell me, try, reason your way through it. Like give yourself like give yourself three facts, like to see if you can stop the whirlwind. Pray, meditate if you're a spiritual religious person. But sometimes you just got to get up and start your day, which is the other thing that a psychologist told me. It's like sometimes you got to just get up and move.
Yeah,
If your mind is not stopping, then you have to get up and move. Go, even if it's 5 a.m, like go for a walk, go wash the dishes and then come back to sleep. And sometimes your mind will relax when you get into movement, you know? But if everything you've tried fails, then you have to get up and do. Otherwise, your mind will keep. And you know what's funny? The second I got up and started my day, the anxiety was gone. It was gone. Like I brushed my teeth, and it was gone. I just started my day, and by the way, I ended up having a great day that day. So it wasn't like I had a horrible day. Had a great day.
you were probably busy throughout the day too.
Extremely. I didn't stop. That was one of those like 16-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't stop. But not just work, but all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it was a nonstop day. Nonstop day. And it was an amazing day. It's like, wow, what a great day I had. Even though it started with this anxiety fest. But
Wow.
that's what happens, that's what happened to Bilbo in The Hobbit, I mean, he was dreading the start of his adventure. But the second he started, and it got pretty good. It had obviously problems, and obviously our lives have problems, but overall, like yeah, that was the best thing in my life. It was the best adventure I ever had,
Mm-hmm.
And we have micro adventures within our days and within our weeks and our months and our years. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Man, that was hard in the beginning, but boy, I'm very glad I made that decision. That was a really good choice I made, even though I suffered through it.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you have to make a big decision and like the two paths, like if you pick this one, it seems good. If you pick this one, it also seems good. Which one do you go with?
You go with.
That.
You see that in these RPGs where it's like Mass Effect or something, where the decisions you make will end up shaping how the game goes. It's like, well, we do that in life every single day. It's like, do I talk to this person or do I not? Like dating, for example. Like imagine if you had never, dated your wife. It's like, how different would your life have been? You know what I mean? Like, how different would your life have been if you never had that conversation or you never asked for that raise? It's like we make those choices every single day, all the time. Those two paths.
Yeah. And, you only live once. So you got to make the most of those times when they come about, ask for that raise. If you know you deserve it, ask for it, and if you're confident in yourself and you want to date that girl, ask her out.
Yeah.
You only live once.
You only die once too. I mean,
well, I don't, because I have unlimited lives.
Oh, right.
Unlimited continues.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So player one has unlimited continues. That's true. I forgot.
Unlimited continues, which kind of like doesn't really make sense, because if you have unlimited lives, then how do you get to your continues? But anyways, I don't know. It was just something somebody threw at me, so I just ran with it.
Yeah, let's not.
That's another episode of its own.
That's another podcast. We'll talk about how to devolve the continues with the lives and how that logically makes sense or doesn't. So then, what would be an example of a battle? What would be an example of a battle that you fought? Maybe you had a bottle in the battle. I don't know. What would be an example of a battle that you fought, and how did you grow from it? And looking back, like what was beautiful about it?
Well, I know you talked about anxiety.
Hell yeah.
Anxiety was a big deal for me in my late 20s and probably my 30s. Um, I had a heart condition at age 26, and I ended up being in the hospital, hospitalized. It was a really scary moment in my life. It happened to me three times. Um, two more times in my early, no, one more time in my late 20s and a third time in my early 30s. And it just made me, real anxious and real scared about dying, young, and being in a hospital and being hooked up to machines and them running all these tests on your heart, and cardiologists coming in and putting you on medication. And it was a really scary battle for me. But the way I got over it was by making changes in my life, making changes in the way I think, making changes in my health. I started, doing fitness in my 30s and doing some martial arts, and it really helped me. But I also think that what really helped me was my mindset. When I was younger, I was very angry. I was very, everything would bother me. And I think that affected my health, my body, the way, I would handle things. Um, the way I think now is quite differently. I just, I go with the flow, and it just takes a lot now to just make me angry. I think I just, appreciate um the overall essence of life, and just being able to enjoy you know taking a time out, or you know having a cup of coffee with my wife, or spending time with my kids, or just enjoying those little things, and just not going crazy like I used to when I was a younger person. I think that made a big change in my health, and also having a good personal relationship with God is, a really important thing. At least, like being able to pray to God and talk to God, you know, God makes a big difference in anybody's life if you accept him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that made the difference for me.
Yeah, because you got rid of the poison, which was the anger and the stress. So you detoxified that, but you also added an antidote or a positive element, which is the big God, which is God. So, you know, it's kind of like you worked at both angles. It's like you made a sandwich.
Yes,
You took away, not only did you take away the negativity, but you replaced it with something better. And that's the ultimate solution. Remove what ails you and fill that hole with something better. And in this case,
exactly.
you pick the best possible thing, but that's beautiful. How you tied those two things together.
Yeah. I think once you make that connection with God, God gives you answers that nobody else can give you.
Sure.
Like there's just it's such a powerful way of fulfilling one's needs. Um, that whenever you have a problem, depression, anxiety, doubt, it's resolved when you pray to God. I mean, God will give you an answer, but you just got to have faith
And patience sometimes too.
and patience. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Patience is a
Sometimes
virtue.
patience is a virtue for a reason, right? Like sometimes I feel like there's like a business, there's a 5 to 7 business days on your answer. Sometimes no, but there's wisdom in that, and there's reasons for it too. You know, it's not trivial that prayer and discernment can sometimes take time. For
Yeah.
someone like me who's very action oriented and very speedy, that tends to be a problem because I get upset.
Okay.
Like my girlfriend, for example, sometimes she asks for time. Like, well, what do you mean you need time? Like, yeah, I gotta think this through. It's like, no, let's talk about it now. Like, let's fix it, let's solve it. Like, you don't run away from it. Well, different dispositions, different personalities. So you got to make a compromise. So you can't always run away, but sometimes you can't fix things right away either. So it's like you've got to work together and try to find the solution, but you have to respect people's perspectives sometimes. It's not going to happen always on your timetable, which is my problem.
I agree. I mean, my, like my answer to relationships, I'm not an expert, but I've been in my relationship now for 25 years. It's going to be 25 years next year. And I've always found that, just communication is important. And whenever there is something that your significant other may have some doubts or concerns about, it's important for you to try to get to that as soon as possible. And yeah, man, communication is key. And I'm kind of old school moral. I always believed in taking care of my woman and being kind of like the golden era boy. um I'm the kind of guy that I open the door
Yeah.
for her, and I open the car door and bring her flowers and all that kind of stuff. And I think those little things make a big difference. you know you know you don't need all the money in the world um to make the woman you have with you be by your side. She'll be by your side if you really love her. And and if you do those little things for her, she's going to appreciate that and love you back. And I think that little things like that make a relationship last a long, long time.
Yeah. And you said some very cool things because you connected not just obviously the affirmations of it, like communication, but you highlighted some specific actions as well. You can't just say you love someone, you have to act like it too. Otherwise, it's just meaningless words, or the words are not connected to a deeper purpose expressed through action. I like that you made that connection naturally.
Yeah, the littlest things mean a lot. I mean, I can give you a lot of things. I'm not a great cook, but if you throw down a meal for your significant other, those are little things that they appreciate. They may not say it, but they really do.
Yeah.
And like I said, when you're like in a relationship for that first year, it's like the greatest thing ever. But what happens after year one, and year two comes, and year three comes, and where does this relationship go, and how do you keep it spicy, and how do you keep it like
Interesting.
mystic, and like how you first met, because when you first meet, you're
Right. You're
really
all
all into each other. But like for me, like nothing's changed after 25 years. Every time I see her, you know it's like love at first sight. I'm definitely crazy about her, and I think that's just the way it should be. But it's hard for some people, and
it takes
I think
effort. I mean, it doesn't happen automatically.
yeah.
It's not like it's not like you always get these spontaneous moments of attraction. It's like, no, like you have to, like, okay, tonight I've got a plan. right? Like I'm gonna cook a meal, or I'm gonna bring this home, and I'm gonna wear this, and I'm gonna say this. It's like, it's funny because Jordan Peterson, I watch his content a lot on YouTube, and he says this because he's done a lot of couples counseling over the years. But he's like, well, hold on a minute, when you're dating a person, it's like you got to plan stuff. So you got to ask somebody out. It's like you don't magically or spontaneously appear attractive. Like, no, like you did your hair, or you painted your nails, or you wore a suit, and you cut your hair, and you wore cologne, and you take this person out, and you ask that person, and you plan on it. Like you plan, hey, this Friday night, let's go out. Like, well, why would that stop after getting married? It's like, why would you stop doing that? That makes no sense. You don't just stop planning things because you're married. If anything, you plan more now because things are more complex now, like before.
I think one of the great things to do is travel a lot together, explore.
That's adventure.
Yeah, that's adventure right there. Yeah, one of the pillars.
It's one of the pillars. Look at the sheet.
Yeah.
So who do you look up to, if anyone, really?
Certainly not Glitch, but
Glitch. Well, who's Glitch? Like, I know who Glitch is.
I don't know what's going on. Ever since I created the show, like he appeared out of nowhere, and he's been trying to sabotage all my plans. If anything, he's part of the battle.
He's part of the battle.
He's part of the battle, and I can definitely tell you there is no beauty in Glitch. He has tried everything to sabotage, destroy, and get rid of Player One. But Player One is here ready to fight Glitch and to take care of this bully and to send him away for good.
I don't think that Glitch will ever turn good. He's always going to be evil.
I don't know. Did Skeletor ever turn good? Was Shredder ever a good guy? I don't know. Glitch is like in that same
He's in
category.
There's no redemption.
I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a backstory to Glitch, and that'll be coming soon. But I don't know why he wants to sabotage everything I do.
Yeah,
it's
to quote Alfred from The Dark Knight, sometimes people just want to watch the world burn. Yeah.
I can answer that.
Okay. So I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen, but we just had a Glitch attack, and he turned my computer off literally as we were talking about him.
It was insane. I mean, I'm gonna have to throw out a AVGN commercial to the VPN network.
Right? He's gonna be our sponsor.
Yeah, the sponsor.
Oh my god.
I forgot the name of that commercial, but he mentions
VPN.
ExpressVPN. Yeah.
ExpressVPN is on every AVGN,
that's like on like his actual video. It's not even like YouTube ads. So they must be paying him some good money.
Probably. I mean, it's definitely a long contract. I mean, it's been happening for a long time.
Yeah.
Also Ridge wallets too.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, before I got cut off by Glitch. I would say like persons I look up to was my grandfather. He was always a fun, artistic guy, musician. He was just a good, funny guy, good sense of humor, family man. And pretty much that's the person that I would say I look up to. And he instilled some good values in me and always, accepted me the way I was. And, I wasn't your typical kid. I was always like, a little bit, kind of nerdy, and um just never was the kind of kid that was always like with the norm. There was a certain norm. I was like outside the norm. I was just like into different things at that time, and I had this big imagination, and I think now I still have that imagination. What about you? Who was your idol growing up?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many, honestly, and some of them are real and some of them are fictional.
Well, it's definitely not Glitch.
No, it's not Glitch.
Oh, thank God.
Freaking Glitch. Well, so who would I'm gonna pick one because if I start talking, I mean, we'll be here for 3 hours. But one person that I really looked up to was actually my first martial arts instructor, and he basically became a life slash business coach outside of being my instructor and training me really hard. He really taught me a lot about what it means to surpass your limits, and it actually ended up, surpass your limits is actually the motto for my mobile fitness company as a personal trainer. He really instilled that mindset into me about literally about growing and really, really trying and failing things and not giving up and being consistent and persistent and really being a person of value. And so that stuck with me. And I have a great relationship with him to this day. I mean, I've known him for 15 years. And he really complimented the other men I had in my life. Like my father. My father is a very kind man, very, very supportive man, very good to my mother. Always made sure we had a home and we had a table. Both my grandparents, both my grandfathers were very good to me in different ways. And so I had thanks be to God that I had a pretty good example of manliness. But every single man kind of gave me a different puzzle piece. Because like my father's not a businessman and he wasn't a martial artist. So I got that from my mentor, you know. But my mentor isn't perfect, so he has his flaws. So it's like we all have flaws and we all have things that we give to each other. So I was very thankful for that.
So,
And I'm super thankful for all those role models,
so your father is still with your mother.
yeah.
How long has that been?
Well, that's going on 26 years.
Wow.
Yeah, 26 years.
So
Thanks.
that's a big deal. That's a big deal. It's got to be more than 26 years. Aren't you 30?
Oh my God, you're right. I literally just made a mistake because I'm tired. Oh my God. Yeah, what am I saying? What am I
More.
saying? Yeah, it's 31. They're going on 31 years. Yeah, I'm tired. Oh my gosh.
That's
That was
amazing.
really like a mental slip.
No, I was just thinking. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
not.
right.
I'm not saying your age here on live
Oh my
podcast.
God.
'Cause I don't mind saying mine, but yeah, like that's pretty. That you don't see that much nowadays. That's
No,
pretty interesting.
no, thanks be to God. Honestly, I'm so thankful about that. So thankful for that, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that union is a very, very, very good example because no marriage is perfect, as you know, because you're
Yeah.
married. But yeah, you maintain that bond. You maintain that bond and you do whatever you can to keep it strong and protect it. And like we said earlier, it's like it requires effort. It doesn't happen by osmosis. It's not It's not by simple diffusion. It's like no, like you have to actually spend energy, you know?
Yeah. Cool.
So like what like so like you know you're a storyteller, right? You're a content creator, and you know you do a lot. What's interesting about what you do is you create good entertainment, which is beautiful. Have you ever thought about like what you would like to give back to the planet? Like, is there any cause that you're passionate about, or anything that you think about that you'd like to give to other people?
Um, I've always been most comfortable around kids. I've always enjoyed helping youth and helping them, achieve greatness and
Mm,
giving them advice and helping them out with things that they may not know that they may be good at. There's always something in a child that is special, and I've always like I used to work in the school system. I worked in the school system for 4 years, and I got to meet a lot of kids. And for me, it's just like sitting down, talking to them, listening to them, and then figuring out a solution. Because a lot of kids they go through many, I guess, many problems that adults do, um,
yeah.
but in their world, right?
In their world, in their
In their,
respective world.
in their respective world. And it's important for us as adults to hear them out and help them out. And um, I don't know if um,
Well, I mean that's a very beautiful way to give back, right? Because I mean, you're literally influencing lives. You know, a lot of times when I actually look back, that's usually why I put these two questions together. Like, who do you look up to and what do you give back? Because usually what you give back is who you look up to and what they did for you. And you usually give that to other people. It's like this legacy chain that keeps going.
yeah,
Usually that's how it goes for most of the time. But when I look back in my life, I can see like when someone did something for me or said something to me, when I think about it, I can connect the dots and be like, oh, because of this, I did that. And it's beautiful because you can literally map your life, and you can, and good and bad, by the way, like good and bad things, like, oh yeah, like I did this because of that. It's like, oops, you know. But I also got this great benefit because of what this person said or did for me. And I can see how that forged my destiny to a certain extent and shaped my decisions.
I always think about that too with certain kids that I had the the pleasure of working with. I hope that maybe one day they take the advice I gave them and put it into play, or maybe one day, just if they do find me again, they say, "Hey, I remember what you told me. Thank you so much." Um,
That would be so satisfying.
yeah, I do have communication with some kids. Um,
Good.
one of them is in high school. I met him in junior high,
Wow.
and I promised him I'd go to his graduation next year. So
Wow.
straight A student. So his name
Wow.
is Andres, really good kid.
Oof, that's
And he was a kid that he had a lot of battles when he
yeah.
was going to progression in school and just fitting in. And you know he just needed someone to talk to and to vent a little bit. And it was amazing what he accomplished. He's a straight A student. He's on the football team, and now he's going to graduate next year with, I think he's going to get a 4.0. So he's accomplished so much in his life.
He's like a star student,
He is.
an
He really
athlete
is
too, obviously.
an athlete. Yeah.
It's always interesting to me that when I hear these stories, right? Because you sometimes you get to meet these, especially working in school, you get to see like the good and the bad of everything.
Hmm.
Because school is basically, it's like a small country. It's kind of a small world. Because like in school you have, you have the people who have power, right? The alpha, the alpha males and the alpha girls, and you got the beta males and the beta females, and you see cliques and you see politics. It's like, oh well, we don't sit with those people, and this is how we say things, and we don't hang out with those guys, they don't hang out with us, and we're all fighting for power and control to be at the top. And then you got sports, and sports is a whole nother thing, right? Because you've got the top athletes, and then you've got the band people. So it's like you have this world within a world in school.
Yeah,
You get to
it
see
really is.
the best and the worst of what humanity has to offer. Like just go to your local high school, and boy, will you see it. And the girls who like they make fun of each other in the bathroom, and then the gossip, and then the guys who are like beating up on each other, and it's just so, I mean, it's
Also,
the
drug use.
best and the worst.
Drug use is,
Drug use,
my goodness.
drug use is huge, obviously. um it's and but it's such a, it's like this, it's like school is like an unregulated planet. It's like what
It,
happens when you have like you know less moral decent less moral decency, and like people are just kind of allowed to do as they wish, as long as the teacher's not looking. Then things change, right? But man, you leave kids on their own, and you'll see the best and the worst of what we have to offer the planet.
yeah, I learned a lot working in the school system, a lot, and it was. I mean, it's. I think every parent should work in the school system because
just
it's an eye opener as to what you're putting your child in. You know, and
we could have a 6-hour podcast just on that, because
we could.
I have a lot of opinions on education.
I
I have a
can.
lot of opinions on education and the school system in general.
I can talk to you a lot about the school system.
Oh, I'm sure you could. Because working there for years, I mean, my mom works as a special needs assistant teacher, and I cannot begin to tell you the stories I've heard. I mean, woo boy,
Oh,
you talk about battle,
I
like
got, I got stories for you.
kids. Yeah, I'm sure you do. Like, she works with special needs kids. And I mean, she's been vomited on, she's been bitten. I mean, she's had to clean all sorts of fluids. So,
Those were my favorite kids when I worked in the school system.
oh, they're beautiful.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
they're beautiful. And they're smart.
they're
Oh, they're
very smart.
Ooh.
I mean, I had so much fun with them, and they were like the most honest kids. Like
Oh
those,
yeah.
but that would be another story for another podcast because I have some stories to tell you about those kids.
I'm sure. All right. So one of the things I love to ask people is their favorite video game. So it's like, what's your favorite video game? You may not have one, but try really hard to see if you can pick one.
That's
Yeah, like 7.
actually that's actually pretty easy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's one game that um is my favorite video game of all time, and it all comes down to everything it has in it: beauty, graphics, adventure is definitely there, has a lot of adventure. Battle, boy, you're in for a battle, and after you beat the game, you can change the difficulty if you want.
Oh, there we go. New game plus.
New game plus. And then the other pillar is
Growth.
growth. You will definitely grow with this game because after you're done playing it, you're gonna play the sequel, and you're gonna play the next one, and you're gonna play the next one, and you're gonna play the next one because there's so many of them. And that game is Mega Man 2.
Really?
Mega Man 2 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It has the best action, adventure, music. You can go onto YouTube and type in Mega Man 2 soundtrack, and That soundtrack is insane.
I
Just
love the music from that.
just hear the soundtrack. It's like, who created that in 1988?
1988.
It was like insane. The music, the techno. You got to hear it. You got
So,
to hear it.
fun fact: I've never played Mega Man 2, but I've heard all the soundtrack. I love the music from the game.
The music
I
is
love it.
fantastic. In fact, if you're gonna play
Love
Mega
it.
Man, don't even start with part one. Part one was terrible.
Yeah,
Just
people say to skip the first one.
skip the first one. Go straight to two and just move on up.
Go from there.
Yeah.
It's like Street Fighter. Same thing. Like we don't talk about Street Fighter 1. We started Street Fighter 2, you know? The same thing.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't Street Fighter 2 Street Smart? I don't know. That may be for another. I don't know everything about gaming, but I think it might have been called, the first one might have been called Street Smart. It was an arcade port.
I mean, I know it was called Street Fighter. That much I know.
Hmm.
And it was a really bad game. You could only play as Ryu or Ken, depending on the player you were, if you're player one or player two. And yeah, there were no character selection screen. The controls were horrible. You know, it was just called Street Fighter. Yeah, Street Fighter 2 was the one that put. It's funny, yeah, they had the same story as Mega Man. Like no one talks about.
And it was also a Capcom game.
And it was also a Cap. That's a cool connection you made. You're right. They were both
Also,
Capcom games.
And Street Fighter 2 had some really great music as well. The
Yes,
Ryu stage, the Ken stage, the Guile stage.
Yeah, Guile's theme is like super popular. Obviously,
Yeah.
I've got videos with it. And by the way, another Capcom game that the second game was the one that put the series on the map, Resident Evil. Not many
Resident
people
Evil
talk
2.
about Resident Evil 1, but everyone talks about Resident Evil 2. So
Yeah.
Capcom has a legacy of like making
Really great
first
game.
time failures and like having
Well,
big victories.
I would say the first Resident Evil was a really good game. I first played it on the PlayStation in '96.
Now I'm scared to like look around and see if there's like a zombie or a monster coming in
Oh my goodness. Be careful, man, because there's
I'm
glitch that went out.
I'm a scaredy cat. Like
It-
if I see a horror movie, I'll watch it, but then at night, oh my gosh, like I get so paranoid. It's like I know it's not gonna happen, but like now I'm like, oh my gosh, like no one better come in here now. I'm thinking about Resident Evil 2 because I played oof.
The remake was
The remake is scary, man.
the remake was good, and the one that came out afterwards, the remake of Nemesis,
Nemesis, yeah.
that was really good too. I kid you not, I bought that game and I beat it in one day. I was just like
Wow.
playing that like
You know what
nonstop.
scared me? Resident Evil 2. Tyrant.
Well, the Tyrant, yeah,
Oh my gosh.
when he would walk around chasing you,
The music would come on when he would get closer to you.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. That would make my heart go like I would get like tachycardia. It would freak me the frick out. I could never play that game with the lights off.
Yeah, that was
It was scary, man. That game scared me. That's
that
just-
game. If you're scared of that game, don't play Fatal Frame.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
That's a really scary game. Play that in the dark. That's like some grudge
My
shit.
dog walking, I'm like scared.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh. I yeah, like I have those moments. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to me because so when I talk to people about their favorite video game, usually people will highlight different things. I mean, you said, well, this game has all four for me, at least all four of the pillars, but you highlighted the music in specific. So like obviously like music soundtracks to you are important because you also use the example of Street Fighter.
Yeah, music is just, music comes from God.
Music.
So music can inspire one to do things 10 times better, you know. So when a game like that has that kind of music, imagine how better your adventure is. You know, like it's insane. Even Resident Evil 2, you mentioned it, Resident Evil 2.
Yeah.
That has some music in there that is like
Well,
it's like iconic.
it enhances the atmosphere too.
Yeah, it enhances the atmosphere. It just makes a big difference when it's done correctly. Look, take another example. Super Mario Brothers, right? Dun, 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 dun.
So catchy.
Everybody remembers
Everyone
that.
knows that. Everyone knows that.
That just gets you into the game. It's so jolly, you know. So yeah, when it's done right, when the music is done right, that adventure becomes a lot more fun.
I encourage all of my clients to listen to music that inspires them
Mhm.
because music has this everyone like it doesn't matter who you talk to. Everyone has a favorite genre of music or everyone has a favorite song. I don't think there's anyone on this planet in a developed country that does not like some form of music. Like music is a universal language.
Exactly.
And I encourage people have like if you go to my Spotify, I mean, I'm going to tell you the number right now. I'm just going to pull it up real quick. I'm going to go to my library real quick. So I think I have like, doesn't tell me the number, but I have like 46 playlists, you know?
Wow.
And they're all different. Because like, if I want to, music is kind of like, it's kind of like alcohol or drugs because it enhances your mood.
Yeah.
But it does it without side effects. So you don't get drunk and you don't get high or whatever, you know?
It doesn't affect your health either.
It doesn't affect your health. It actually makes your health better, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, they have all this study on music and how music helps people. And I mean, there's music therapy for crying out loud. It's like there's a reason why music therapy exists because music is therapeutic in and of itself, which is very fascinating to me. So, yeah, like I love like my favorite video game is Octopath Traveler. And one of the reasons why I love that game so much is because the soundtrack for that game is in my opinion one of the best video game soundtracks ever composed. And by the way, like for the longest time, Kingdom Hearts for me was like my favorite video game. But Octopath Traveler on the Nintendo Switch, it made me laugh, it made me cry, it engrossed me so much in the story, and it made me sympathize with the characters, and it just affected me in such a way that no video game had really ever done. At least all those things put together.
That's my sister's favorite game too.
You're kidding?
Yeah.
Really? Octopath Traveler?
Yeah. I've never played it. I've heard nothing but good things from it. And
wow.
Somebody they told me that the same artwork that they used on Final Fantasy 3 was used on this game. And I think some of the same creators. So
yeah, because it's made by Square Enix. So a lot of the people who worked on Final Fantasy worked here.
Yeah, so that's
wow.
That's a game that I gotta check out. But I have such a big backlog of games. It's hard to.
Don't we all?
Yeah, it's just like it's just piled up with stuff. And I mean, what's the next PS5 game I'm gonna play? I think it's Returnal. It's like an alien kind of game, alien world.
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, look.
Yeah, show me. The best thing you can do is show us. Oh, the chair warped into reality. Returnal. I see it. Interesting. Huh.
PS5 game.
There it is. I see it fully now. Interesting.
It's not even open. You see it?
Well, I had a funny story about that. So GameStop a few years ago had this. They did this sale every year, It's like the gamers come back sale. I don't know. It has like this specific name.
Mm-hmm.
And during that sale, there were like games that were half off, games that were like buy two get one free. And I kid you not, I bought like 10 games that day. And it was like, I think it was like $120 or something in total. Like 8 of those games I never opened. They're still in plastic. And then I played 4 of them and I didn't finish out of those 12. I think I only finished 1 of them. And like, that's not even talking about my Steam library, because this isn't even talking about Steam. So years ago, when I started making money and I still didn't have expenses, because it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. Robert Kiyosaki says that in Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. Because if you make $1 million and you spend $999,000, it's like, well, you only have $1,000 left. You know what I mean? So you're not really rich. You just look rich, but you're not. So long story short, I couldn't even make time. I could make time if I just stopped doing my life and I just play video games 24/7. But yeah, like I never played those games. So I made a rule later on, and I keep this rule very, very frequently. I do not start playing other games until I finish the games that I'm playing. And I very rarely make exceptions. The only time I make exceptions is when, like, you know what? This game is not what I thought it was, and I'm not even enjoying it, so I don't even want to waste my time on it. And I just stop playing it.
That's a good process of thought, because if I do that, then maybe I'd be more organized with my gaming.
Yeah,
But I got overwhelmed years ago. So
I know.
it's just, sometimes like you'll find a good deal on a
Yep.
game and it's like, oh, now's the time to buy it.
Yeah, so that was, yeah.
And they'll sit there and then you're like, oh, I didn't finish this game, but I really want to play this
I
game.
really want to play this game.
So then, it's not that the other game is bad. It's just that maybe you're like in an area where you're stuck.
Yep.
And then you got to do some more digging to complete that quest. And then you're like, okay, well, I want to play this game right now. And that's what happens to me. You get into the other game and you play it, and it's a process.
You kind of just forget about the other game, you know?
Yeah. Now, unless it's like something that I've been a fan of, if it's Resident Evil, it gets it gets bumped up to the top of the list. It doesn't matter what's there, it's out of the way. Or I still have Shenmue from 2 years ago. Still sealed. Shenmue 3. It was a martial arts game. And I never, I finished the first 2 parts like 20 years ago. They released the 3rd part a few years back to a Kickstarter. And I have it on PlayStation. And now that we're talking about it, because you're telling me that you still have some sealed games, I still haven't played that one. And I've been wanting to play that one. You should check those values on whatever you have. Maybe they're worth a lot more.
Maybe. Some of them maybe. I'd be surprised, but you never know. Maybe some of them are. I've been surprised before. I mean, sometimes. So, the Nintendo Wii had the Nintendo Wii U had a very limited game library.
Yeah, it was very, 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 very small.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
My dog barked like really weird. But anyways, so like, the Nintendo Wii U had a very limited game library, and there's a lot of people that they want to complete the library, and so they buy these really bad, horrible games at ridiculous prices just so that they can say that they have the full collection.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I guess everyone has their cup of tea. I don't want a full library of games. In fact, I actually downsized some of my collection by like 25%. And
Really?
that's because yeah, I did. It's because I had cables and controllers everywhere. And I just didn't like the way my gaming area looked. And I got rid of some of the stuff. I got rid of my Sega Saturn. I got rid of my Xbox. I got rid of my Xbox 360. I just decided to keep the stuff that I really play. And I do have a Wii U, so most of the systems I have, I only buy the games that I really, really like. I wouldn't purchase something just because, I'm trying to have a whole collection. If I did that, I'd probably be out the door because I wouldn't have any space for it.
We need a second gamer's attic for that one.
We need a second gamer's attic, and probably Glitch would come along the way and steal everything anyway. So,
Probably, you're right.
yeah.
What would you say would be like the biggest value you've gotten, like through playing games in general?
I think the biggest value is that I've been able to expand my imagination. It's given me creativity, and it's also it also benefits your mind, I believe. You just become a more not smarter but wiser. You kind of learn some things from playing video games and from having all those experiences. So yeah, I think that's what I've gotten out of it.
Well, it's actually interesting that you bring that up because there actually is some research that was done, and I wouldn't be able to cite the studies to you right now, but there was research that was done with video games in terms of like problem solving
Mhm.
and basically what video games do is that they put you in these like really unique situations that most people at a young age, unless they game, would never either they would never be in or they would never think about. And yeah, it's like people who do that, it's like they kind of mature faster sometimes.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid, like from a young age, I mean, I had a pretty strong convictions about heroism and helping people, and I was very mature, and I was thinking about things and doing things that other people were not because they just didn't play the same type of game or didn't play games at all. So I noticed that about myself from a very young age. And for whatever reason, which I'm still not sure about 100%, I was very, very, very romantic, like with women. And I remember this girl that I had a crush on. I mean, I was 12 years old, and I got it. My mom helped me out, obviously. Like she took, because I didn't have money when I was 12. I don't think most people did. But
Yeah.
like I went to Hallmark and I bought a card. I wrote a message for her. I got flowers, chocolates. I made a CD for her too, like these romantic songs. It's like I gave all this to a girl like in between like fourth and fifth period. I was like in sixth grade. It was like, where did I get that from at 12? It's like I must have been influenced by either some sort of music or some sort of game I played or something I saw from a show that I liked, because yeah, no other 12-year-old was doing that. Like nobody.
You were influenced by the beauty pillar.
I probably was, but I'm not sure where it came from. I'm not entirely sure if it was from a game or a show or something I saw, but it certainly came from it came from some kind of content. That's for sure. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Interesting.
I have to do some kind of digging now, like think about what was I watching when I was 12, What was I playing when I was 12?
I was like a late bloomer for girls.
Yeah?
I was like maybe like when I first liked them, I was probably 14.
Oh, really?
Before that, I was like, ew, yuck.
That's I don't have data either, but that definitely sounds later than average. Because like my first crush was like I think I was like 5, like
Well, I probably had crushes, but like not like romantic feelings. Romantic wasn't like to like those 4.
ah, oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Like that level of romanticism, yeah, that usually comes later. So, with your YouTube channel, you're actually about to hit a pretty significant milestone for most YouTubers. You're almost at the 1,000 subscriber mark. Like you're pretty close.
Almost there. I think you know, the 4th season is winding down. We're gonna do one more for this year, and we're gonna film that soon. I have the skit from the skit writer, and we're gonna film that, and I'm really excited about it. That's actually one of the things on my life bucket list is to hit 1,000 subscribers. So
I
it's a
love
big
this.
it's a, yeah it's a big deal to me because to do that is not easy. I think that like getting to that number it's small, but it's not easy at all. I've especially when you lose subs, you gain some. It's annoying as hell.
I wonder. Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
wonder. Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, at the moment of this recording, I only I only have 13 subscriptions. Now, granted, I'm very thankful for everyone who subscribed, but yeah, like I wonder. I mean, I like people. I really must like people. Just probably just. I guess they just don't like the content anymore. That's why they unsubscribe, or maybe.
No, I think it's just that the YouTube community is oversaturated, and especially when you're like
Oh
in the
yeah,
game, yeah, when you're like in the gaming community, there's just so many gamers. It's just like too many people, like too many people. So you kind of like have to try to stand out. So I think early for me, it was like I was just trying to do what everybody else was doing, but I was trying to make it my own.
right.
And it was okay, but I also found it that some of the videos were just way too damn long. And
This podcast.
well, but
But every
that's
minute to
different.
me is like
That's different. Well, it's different because it's like an interview,
right, exactly. But that's what
but
I'm saying. Like this is
but
great. I don't mind. I don't mind at all. Like I love it.
no, I enjoy this,
But
but
yeah, could you
uh,
imagine like a feature film episode of like you and Glitch and Mustache Mega Man?
I would love to do a feature film, like a 90-minute movie with with the crew and
Oh man.
a big story, and I mean that's one of my goals is to do a full length film, but that's going to take some time to do.
Of course.
But definitely from here on out, what you're going to be seeing on the channel is going to be stories. So you won't see any more of the unboxings or anything like that. It's just going to be all new content skits. We're also working on recreating a Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and yeah, you heard it here first.
Oh
So
wow.
I'll be playing Luigi, and Chris will be playing Mario. So we're trying to create. We have little stories that we're writing down, and we're gonna re-record those, and it's all tribute to Captain Lou Albano and Danny Wells, which me and Chris are big fans of. So we're 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 creating videos for family entertainment. There's no cursing on the channel. It's all PG, something that stands out from other channels.
Yeah.
You go to other people's channels, like almost all of them are cursing.
Right.
But with this channel, it's always friendly, and you can come on there and have a good laugh. So I think what broke the barrier for us was the Glitchbusters short film. That was the one that was like it really like answered all of my doubts,
Yeah.
about the channel. It kind of like opened up everything for me because now that video is approaching 500 views.
Wow.
And for a small channel like us, that's a big deal.
Wow.
So, and a lot of kudos to Vincent who wrote the skit. He wrote another skit for us called "A Links to the Past," which is also on the channel. That one got like 700 views, if I'm not mistaken. It was a pretty good. It was a fun little short film, and it also featured Glitch. So, so yeah, I mean, I'm excited to keep doing the little short films. We're gonna keep doing that, and then possibly like I had like you had asked me about a movie where I'm also thinking about that, but that's gonna take some time to do.
So there's no date on that.
No, there's no date on that yet because it's gonna take a lot of work between me and maybe flying Chris in and getting another like Bogey in and some other guys, but
It's
it's gonna take. It's not gonna be like something we can shoot in 2 days. It's gonna take a while.
yeah, there's gonna take like an ironclad like schedule.
Yeah,
Probably about, I mean, if you're very disciplined about it, could probably get that done in under a week. But to coordinate everyone's schedule,
yeah, that's the problem. It's
that's
just
yeah,
trying
that's
to
a
get
problem, right?
everybody.
Because yeah, you gotta make it work. You gotta have ask people to kind of take probably about a week or so of their time off. Because to
Yeah, and that's another thing. I'm so appreciative of all the time that in the past, all my friends have taken off, just to do, one of my projects or whatever. They do it without question. So I don't know how it would be to get a bunch of guys in for 7 days or, to film a bunch of movie scenes. So I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I certainly think that it would be super fun, right? I mean, it would be great. It's
Yeah, it
just
would be. There's
logistically.
nothing funner than watching a couple of adults act like kids.
Oh my gosh, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah,
Nothing more authentic or beautiful, I think, than that is letting your inner child out.
exactly.
So last question for today. It's the most important question of all. It's my favorite question. What would you consider to be your biggest adventure in your life so far?
Um, my biggest adventure.
Very careful. Remember, your wife's watching.
Well, yeah, it gets back to that. I think it's been my marriage. It's an adventure that keeps growing. Um, my wife has been my biggest supporter my whole life. Well, my practically our whole lives. We've lived together. Like we've lived since I was 17 and she was 15, and
Wow.
we've known each other. So yeah, not our whole life, but a long time,
Fair bit of it.
part a bit of it. And that adventure has spawned two children, and we've had many trips and uh many things that we've done together. And she's just been my biggest supporter since I started doing the YouTube channel. She didn't have to stick around for all that craziness, but no, she believed in me, and she's always been there for me. So that's been my greatest joy in life, having her by my side.
Wow. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful answer. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You really are a family man.
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I'm so humbled and appreciative to be here. And I can't wait to see what the Academy for Adventurers does next. I'm ready to walk into the adventure, and I'm ready to pick my warrior character.
Oh man. Well, we actually have a so we have a job system here at AFA. I didn't talk much about the product here, but we do have a job system, and I will send you an updated copy of what we've been working on. But I do plan to have a warrior job, a berserker job, all sorts of job expansions are planned for the future. So hang tight because that will be coming in 2022. So you can look forward to that.
Wow, 2022. Wow, look at that.
Yeah, we're about a month and a half away.
That's
A little
crazy.
less, I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, this was awesome, man.
I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a heck of an experience, and I really enjoyed your motivational speakings even before the Academy for Adventures. I watched a lot of your stuff on Facebook, so it was a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was such a pleasure to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll link it in the show notes, but you can find you can find his channel here on YouTube, The Gamers Attic Show. I'll link it down below in the show notes and a couple of other useful resources. And you know, if anyone has any questions, I'm sure he would love to answer them and love to give you any information you're looking for.
Thank you guys for having me on. Thank you, Mighty Moral. Thank you.
Oh, we bow.
Appreciate it.